My name is Dwayne Han. I'm 43 years old, and I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I've always been a huge fan of professional wrestling. When I was a kid, my brother and I, we would paint our faces up like different wrestlers and have our little own backyard wrestling shows. But as I got older, I realized I wasn't a very athletic guy, and my dream to be a world-class wrestler went away. So I created No Contact Wrestling in order to keep wrestling alive in my life. The storytelling, the characters, and best of all, the trash talking. Are you ready, baby? Tonight, I'm gonna smack talk the judges into submission. Go show them what you got! This is a golden opportunity to be discovered by the world and show America that No Contact Wrestling is not going anywhere.
Hello. What's your name?
My name is Delicious Duane Douglas.
Delicious.
That's right.
And what are you going to be doing for us?
I am a no-contact professional wrestler.
No contact
No
professional
contact.
wrestler.
That's right.
And you make a living doing it? What do you do for a job?
For a job, I'm a legal clerk at the courts.
Do the people at the courts know that you do this?
They love it.
Do you think you can win this?
Absolutely. I saw a psychic. She told me I'd win this. I already won it. You don't even know it yet.
You think you could take the $1 million prize?
$1 million prize? $1 million is a drop in the bucket for me, big guy.
Whoa! Talking smack.
Okay, good luck.
All right. What's up, Hollywood? It's Delicious Duane Douglas, the greatest no-contact wrestler of all time. And I'm here at America's Got Talent to win it all. But first, let's give it up for Terry Crews. Terry Crews is the second most intimidating man on this stage today. Because the first is this guy, Delicious Duane Douglas. Handsome Howie Mandel. You would be perfect for no-contact professional wrestling. I'm about to offer you the highly coveted spot as my no-contact tag team partner. So when you're ready to change careers, you come see me. Hot stuff, Heidi Klum. Girl, look at all this. How have I not been invited to one of your Halloween parties yet? I don't know. I'm starting to feel a little snubbed. Sophia Vergara, you look incredible. I happen to be a fashion guru myself and one of the most handsome men on the planet. I'm thinking, why don't you have your people call my people and let's do lunch. And all the tight t-shirts in the world can't save you from me, Simon. When I'm done with you, you're gonna wish you were riding that electric bike again. America's Got Talent. I got talent.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Wrestle Plug Podcast. I'm your host, Aeron. You know me, I'm a professional wrestler, booker, all that kind of nonsense. But I've got someone really special this time around. You may have seen him on America's Got Talent. Yeah, something as big as that platform, but there's a lot more than just that. And I know there is, and that's why I'm getting this man on today. He's known as Delicious Duane Douglas.
That's right, it's the quarantine dream. Delicious Duane Douglas, the greatest no-contact wrestler of all time. The icon of isolation, the gyrating genius, and the former Isolation Wrestling Federation world champion.
See, that's an intro that I can't do justice to. That's something you got to give to us. Duane, man, what a character. First time I saw you, a lot of people will watch this and they'll want to know more. You know, I want to know more than just America's Got Talent. You know, you've probably heard that a million times now. Hey, America's Got Talent. You got to meet Simon Cowell. That's cool. But wrestling goes so much further than that.
Right.
Talk to me about Duane Douglas, man. Talk to me about the journey to get here. Now, you're a no contact wrestler. Let's get
no
right out of the
contact
box.
wrestling.
Yeah,
How do we explain no contact wrestling?
Yeah.
All right. No contact wrestling is all the best elements of wrestling without the wrestling. So what we're looking at here is kind of over at the Isolation Wrestling Federation on Instagram, where you can look up, where the action happens. Tomorrow starts our King of the Screen 2 tournament, 16-man tournament vying for supremacy in no contact wrestling. So no contact wrestling is wrestling without any of the wrestling, actually. So it's all the promos, it's all the fun stuff, it's the storylines, the drama, and no actual bell-to-bell action.
It's pretty simple. It's all about, like you say, it's about the promo, it's about the character, it's about the delivery. It's about the
characters, right. It's that throwback to 1980s, 1990s professional wrestling that we kind of just don't get anymore.
Yeah, man. I don't feel like there's enough big characters, big colorful characters, guys like Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, a little bit overdone at this point.
Right.
Randy Savage was the king, Rowdy Roddy Piper, the master of heel, things of that nature. How long has it been for you? How long have you had this idea in your head that no contact wrestling needs to be on a mainstream platform?
What happened was that back when COVID had first started, sports had stopped. You know what I mean? Like everything shut down. And what did we lose? We lost sports and we lost wrestling. So along with losing sports and losing wrestling, these two guys, Casey Hopkins in New York and Jimmy Riddle over in the UK in Hastings, over there, they created the Isolation Wrestling Federation. And what happened is that they were friends. They started creating these wrestling characters and started calling each other out within the first couple of weeks of COVID, first couple of weeks of the shutdown. And then the next thing you know, some of their friends all started playing along and created these wrestlers and all started calling each other out and cutting promos on each other. And then one night, I was driving around with my roommate, and because you weren't allowed to do anything, so you could drive to the supermarket, and that was it. So you could go to the supermarket during COVID. So I was driving with my roommate, and I was like, "Yo, listen, I think I have this idea where I'm going to get a green screen and a stupid outfit, and I'm going to cut wrestling promos on my friends." And like I had ordered the stuff from Amazon, like the jacket and the look, the Speedo, and everything, and I had found the Isolation Wrestling Federation like in between that time, and it felt like destiny. And it was like, here goes a bunch of other people that already had the idea that I had of coming up with a wrestler and creating these characters. So I submitted content to the Isolation Wrestling Federation on Instagram, where anybody can submit their content. You can be a no contact wrestler. Every listener of the show and person watching the show can become a no contact professional wrestler should they choose to. And I submitted some content. They liked it. And Delicious Duane Douglas was kind of off and running at that point. And because I loved wrestling, I loved being Delicious Duane Douglas. He was this hodgepodge of all these characters that I loved so much. And it was very clear that a lot of the other people doing the Isolation Wrestling Federation were similar people of similar interests. Like everybody kind of had this deep passion for wrestling, whether it was when they were a kid or whether it's today or whenever the product was that they watched. There was definitely elements where, it's very clear that these great people that all created their own characters and we all kind of play off of each other and bounce off of each other in the Isolation Wrestling Federation. And that's how like no contact wrestling really got ahead of itself. We've had Wes Borland from Limp Bizkit do content with us. We've had Mick Foley do content with us. We've been on ESPN, the New York Post. I've been on America's Got Talent. It's wildly, it's steamrolled over time. And that's a really incredible thing that it just proves that it's like, if you just do this stuff happens. And you just stick with it and you just do the stuff. And then I was contacted by a producer that asked me if I wanted to be on America's Got Talent. And we decided to bring no contact wrestling to the mainstream because it was offered. You know what I mean? Like, why not show the world this wacky thing that we had all created?
Yeah, I don't want to peel back the curtain too much unless you're willing to obviously talk about
No,
America's
yeah,
Got Talent.
I don't know how much I am allowed to talk, and you know what I mean.
No,
So
I understand that. But like for you, like as soon as you came out on stage, like that's kind of the centerpiece, especially for a lot of us. We get America's Got Talent on delay on Netflix over here. So, you know,
right.
for instance, you know, I sit down with my friends, we watch America's Got Talent, and we sort of just consume it and enjoy it for what it is, that platform. But I'm always in the back of my mind thinking, it's slightly scripted. The moment you're on screen, I'm immediately turning to my partner. I'm like, it's a wrestler. It's definitely a wrestler. I can feel it in my soul because it's something that I've lived and breathed. When does wrestling first become, let's take it all the way back. Let's strip it right back. When does wrestling first become a big deal for you? Who stands out the most?
As a kid, like I want to say like that far back in the 80s, like it was weirdly enough, Jimmy Valiant, the Boogie Woogie Man, was like the first guy I had noticed as a kid, as a little kid. And the Road Warriors. The Road Warriors would come down to the ring to Iron Man by Black Sabbath. And that is single hit. Like in third grade, I was 8. I with my birthday money, I turned 9 that year. My mom took me to a Tower Records and I bought Black Sabbath, Paranoid, solely because of the Road Warriors when I was 8, 9 years old. So the Road Warriors and Jimmy Valiant. And then when I'm going to say a little bit older, the Ultimate Warrior. Like the Ultimate Warrior was, oh man, can I curse on here?
Yeah, of course, man.
He was fucking amazing when I was a little kid, man. Like, holy shit. Like, the ropes, and it is like Jim Ross said, he provided a lot of sizzle prior to the bell. and that's kind of what we do in the IWF, is that we're a lot of sizzle and no bell to bell. And it's kind of that, like, definitely there's those elements of Triple D and the Ultimate Warrior for sure. Like it's a pace. So yeah, those elements. And then growing up in the 1980s and stuff, and watching that Hulk Hogan era, the Ultimate Warrior era, leaving it. And I'm from South Philadelphia, so I lived a couple blocks from the ECW Arena during the 90s, and I was in my teenage years during that time period. So I saw a lot of cool things in that bingo hall at Swanson and Rittner Street. So my grandma lives on Gladstone, which is the street next to Rittner. So it's like, that's how close everything is. So, and right now I'm a GCW mark. So like, I was at the Cardona Nick Gage. I was front row at the Matt Cardona Nick Gage. It was spectacular, man. Like, well, I danced with Too Cold Scorpio and had a magnificent time. So I threw tons of trash. The video that Meltzer used, it's me right there throwing trash right in the middle of the video. It's like, I love wrestling, man. Like I love wrestling to death, and no contact wrestling was just a way of continuing wrestling when no wrestling was happening. And then wrestling came back and everything had kind of steamrolled, and we created these characters, and it's hard to stop once you've created these stories and everything with these characters.
How all-consuming has it become now that it's on a mainstream level, so to speak, particularly in America? How all-consuming is it for you? Do you find yourself slipping in and out of character? You must get approached in public so much as well.
No, not surprisingly not. Like,
really?
I've been approached probably like 3 or 4 times in public. And I'm in a major metropolitan city. Like I'm in Philadelphia, and like I ride the subway and everything like that. We're still wearing masks, so there is a level of that involved. But yeah, I really don't get noticed that much. It hasn't. I made content today. Like I definitely made my stuff for this week for King of the Screen. I made some content that like I'm calling out. Like I've decided at this point, now that I've been on a national level, I have been noticed somewhat, I'm sure. Like the video has been shared in wrestling circles and whatnot and everything, because it's wacky and crazy and shit. Is to put on my big boy Speedo, so to speak, and start calling out like actual real like professional wrestlers, and see if we can get some guys to dabble in no contact stuff, some high level indie guys, stuff like that. I did notice that NXT made some releases yesterday of some guys, out there.
you know, your Alex Zanes and your Jake Atlases and stuff like that. So, you know,
So
if they ever want to make content, you know, Bray Wyatt, if Bray Wyatt would ever like to come to the Isolation Wrestling Federation and air his grievances, we'd be happy to have him, you know, he's absolutely.
Made for that. He's a character. He's made for that.
Oh, that is between that and Braun, like the Braun Strowman thing and the Bray Wyatt thing just really like surprises me. That especially Bray Wyatt, a character that they kind of like grown over the last couple of years. They've given multiple pushes. He's changed his body over the last few years, from the way he came in at the Wyatt family to the way he looks now is completely different. That just really surprises me in like big ways. That's kind of the decisions that they're making. And then over there at AEW, you got all kinds of stuff happening there too. So it's like, does anybody know what they're doing anymore? Like,
no, it's pretty unhinged, to be honest. WWE especially.
That's why I'm a GCW mark, man, because like they've been a little indie company that could, and I live right there on the East Coast, and you know, like it's just neat to watch a company organically do what AEW is trying to do, if that makes any sense.
What do you think about Nick Gage being in AEW? What kind of, because obviously you would have had him.
I watched it. Yeah, I'm a Nick Gage mark. Yeah. I watched it. You know what I mean? It was nice to see him finally get that kind of like opportunity. I felt like, you know, I kind of wish it was the Nick Gage 5 years ago, like fresh out of prison Nick Gage, and not kind of the Nick Gage now, where I think age and wear and tear and stuff has, you know,
feel like he's a little more commercial now as well, Nick Gage.
No, not at all. Like I don't mind that. Like I don't mind that at all. Like he deserves it. You know what I mean? Like I don't see it as like, oh, MDK sold out. You're like, nah, I don't see.
What do you think about the pizza cutter stuff and Domino's? That you must have heard about that. Like,
I thought it was you know what it is? Like what like WWE's trying to put, you know, let's shine a negative light on it, and it's kind of like bad press is still good press, you know what I mean? And now like tons and tons of people know who Nick Gage is. Like that's pretty cool. And that was the same weekend. That was the same week as the Cardona match. You know what I mean? So it's like, as a dude, I had front row tickets to that. You know, I love Nick Gage, like MDK all effing day, man, you know?
So you're an old school wrestling fan, but then like for instance, you're a guy who's seen the best of the best in a lot of people's eyes. Like, you know, I'm only 36, but I love the Mid-South territories. I love NWA. I love that kind of, you know, Georgia, Smoky Mountain, everything that goes with those territories. But then I'm so impressed by your positivity and your energy for a modern day product like GCW. The majority of fans, particularly older fans, would very much turn their nose up at it. I'm interested in the dynamics. You're a no contact wrestler. Do you have any passion or, you know, ideals of maybe going into the more physical side of things?
If opportunities presented itself from no contact wrestling to take things in a more physical realm, as say like something as like, you know, a lost art character, like a manager, you know what I mean? Where it doesn't really happen anymore. If that opportunity arose and somebody had like a great idea, you know what I mean? I would absolutely be into it, because you love wrestling, you know? I love wrestling in a way. Like no contact wrestling is, and being Triple D is a way of, I give back to wrestling. I carve my own niche in this weird niche. It's a niche it's like a niche thing that we're into, and it's a niche thing of the niche thing, kind of like deathmatch wrestling. Like deathmatch wrestling is a very niche thing. I grew up in extreme wrestling with the 1990s. I watched women get power bombed through tables and all pile drived, and I remember Luna Vachon make his Stevie Richards bleed like a stock pig on a Saturday night in that sweaty ass bingo hall, and it was like 120 degrees in there, and it smelled terrible. It's so many dudes were in there back in the day, and like I remember all that stuff. So I think like I missed out on a lot of CZW, you know what I mean, life and getting older and stuff like that. And what happened was that I'd gone to an indie wrestling show with a friend of mine. Just we hadn't hung out in a long time. He's like, hey, I got an extra ticket. You want to go? I was like, yeah, sure. We did that. And the next thing you know, it was like, yo, that was a lot of fun. Let's do the next one. And then along those lines of going to all these indie wrestling shows, that's when we discovered GCW. And like we had kind of stumbled upon it. And I knew Nick Gage, like I knew the story of Nick Gage because I followed wrestling. And so I knew who Matt Tremont was, you know, like those guys. And the deathmatch guys. And then there was guys like Ruckus and stuff like that. I was aware of them, Joey Janela and stuff. They were all GCW dudes. Schlack. I'd heard of Schlack.
I love Schlack.
Right. And I heard of all those guys, and we went to this GCW show, and it was Nick Gage was the headliner and Matt Tremont was on the card. And it was like, holy shit, these guys are at this thing. This is going to be fucking awesome. And it was at the Voltage Lounge here in Philadelphia where they stuck a wrestling ring in a bar. And I had never seen anything like that before. Like there was glass breaking and there was glass flying all over you and everything. And it was super cool. And everybody was in leather jackets and everybody had lapel pins and drinking PBRs. And I was like, man, this is like hipster wrestling, man. Like there was no kids there. You know, it was such a different vibe. And it was from that show. It was like, oh, there was a chair riot. Everybody was throwing chairs in the ring at the end of the night. It was after that I was hooked. Like I was like, oh, I love this. And then now I've been to a couple tournaments of Survival and everything like that. I went to Backyard Wrestling this year. It's been great. Yeah, and I even said to Brett Lauderdale, the owner and booker of GCW, I was like, Brett, I've had the best and most fun wrestling experiences because of Game Changer Wrestling. You know, and that's the truth. Like Game Changer Wrestling kind of came along, and I am optimistic about it because you see some of the best talent at Game Changer Wrestling go over to NXT, and sure they're getting let go like yesterday, like guys like Jake Atlas and Alex Zane, but you know, like they are going up. You know, guys from GCW move up, and that's where I think you see some of the best talent in the world on the indie scene right now.
How far do you think no contact wrestling goes? Like, have you already reached the pinnacle? Because like you know, for you guys, it must be sky's the limit now because you've done so many amazing things. But
right.
Your dreams are taking it further, having it on TV.
Absolutely.
You know, starting to get
absolutely. Trying to figure out that perfect concept that gets no contact wrestling on television, especially with like the added exposure of America's Got Talent. Is that these characters that we've created? Have you ever seen what was it? Southpaw Regional Wrestling, and it was like John Cena and all them. Clint. Yeah, that's what the IWF is.
That's exactly why I loved your stuff.
Exactly what it is.
Southpaw Regional. It's
like Southpaw Regional, and that's kind of what we're doing is Southpaw Regional. And if there was a way that we could package it like a Southpaw Regional type show, absolutely. Maybe taking things in a much more longer form with YouTube and stuff. We've made the move of switching some content over to YouTube and editing it together. So this way people can find it there as well. TikTok is another thing by doing quick motivational things. Triple D's on TikTok, just doing quick motivational pump you ups and stuff. Live your best life, you know, that kind of thing. These characters are unique. No contact wrestling is a self-sustaining thing because you can be a no contact wrestler. All the viewers at home can be a no contact wrestler. All the listeners can be a no contact wrestler. If you've ever had a character deep inside of you, you can just create that character, give us a 60-second promo about yourself and your motivations in the Isolation Wrestling Federation. And then somebody will contact you and will give you an opponent, and you'll either call him out or he'll call you out or she'll call you out. And the next thing you know, you're a no contact professional wrestler. You're doing it. You're off the bench and in the squared screen, you know, so to speak. So you can get out there, brother. You can cut that content if you want to. You know,
I feel like it's a good opportunity for me to work on promos a little bit more as well, to be honest. Like
absolutely.
I work so hard at the physical side of the aspect, but I was always fascinated because, like, obviously I have that extra caveat of being in there myself and kind of understanding the physical kind of sacrifices and the mental sacrifices. So for me, the excitement of having someone of your caliber on is knowing that you are, for all intents and purposes, a wonderful, passionate, hardcore fan that's almost stumbled into something really beautiful, really unique. And yet wrestling's always going to have the negative Nellies and things of that nature. Now, don't get me wrong, there are certain things I don't like about wrestling, and I air my grievances very honestly, but people have probably had things to say. I'm hoping that the majority of things that you've heard are fairly positive, but you're bound to get the odd comments, guys saying, hey, you're not a real wrestler, you're just some cosplay idiot, etc., whatever it might be.
Right.
How do you sort of gauge that kind of response, pun intended?
I do all the responses in character, like, because usually I'm being attacked through the character's page. It never comes to my personal page. All right, here's a good one. Back even before the America's Got Talent thing was happening, I was in a promo battle with a house DJ from the 1990s named Dormouse. And Dormouse had a pretty big following that came along with him. And he had kind of did this wrestling promo that was, I still haven't watched the whole thing. It's like 3 minutes long. And it just goes on and on and on. And I kind of believe that, like, promo's like a song. It has a rhythm to it. You know what I mean? So, like, as you're concocting it, or you're writing it out, or you're coming up with it, or you're riffing it out of your mouth or out of your head and everything, it has to have a rhythm to it, and everything is kind of how I believe. And you need a beginning, a middle, and an end. And this thing went on and on and on that I've still never watched it, but I beat him. And I used all my resources to, like, beat this guy. And because we use votes in the Isolation Wrestling Federation. So, like, you'll have
like an independent panel.
Yeah. You'll campaign. You know what I mean? Like, yo, go vote for me, man. You know what I mean? Hey,
there's a lot of people like that in America, man.
Right. So can you tell your friends to go vote for me? And you got to hustle votes. And I hate hustling votes. So I'd rather just put the content out there and just, but we had to beat this guy. Talked a lot of shit. You know what I mean? I had to beat him, because I'm the face of no contact wrestling. And he came with some haters, man. Like, to this day, I beat this guy the first week of January. It's August. I still get hate mail from Dormouse fans. Like, a couple of
real hate mail, like genuine.
real hate mail. Yeah. Wow. They hate me. They call me all kinds of names and stuff, and send me all kinds of wacky DMs and stuff. And I was up in the middle of the night. And my girlfriend had rolled over and saw me texting, and I think she thought that I was, like, texting women in the middle of the night. And I was like, no, babe, it's 3 a.m. and I'm fighting with a guy named Big Hirsch. You know what I mean? In my comments, like, talking shit to me at 2:30 in the morning. And I'm just like, yo, if you're going to talk shit to me at 2:30 in the morning, your promo better be fucking fire, dog. You know what I mean? Like, yo, you're going to make a video. It better be fucking good if you're waking me up, So, like, you do get that. And I kind of come back at them as a character. And my approach is always, oh, you like to talk shit? Well, then make a video and I'm going to kick the shit out of you. That's kind of my view. Even if I lose, I don't give a shit, like, it's just about making the content and getting Triple D out there, because you never know who's going to see the next wacky Triple D video. Like, I've learned, you get contacted by the weirdest people, West Borland and America's Got Talent, this Dormouse guy. You never know who's going to end up in your DMs because they saw your wacky video.
Man, I fucking love Limp Bizkit when I was like 15, 16.
Oh, you dude, I asked West.
Still do now. Still listen to, like, Golden Cobra and things of that nature. And,
they're touring right now. Yeah. They just did the Lollapalooza thing and stuff.
Yeah, we're a bit heartbroken because obviously music's not. I'm a big Cypress Hill mark,
Right.
I can't get back over here because of borders and COVID and things of that nature. What you done?
Here's a good one. When I first went to Los Angeles for America's Got Talent, because NBC flew me out there, paid for everything, paid for my Lyft, told my Lyft driver, I was like, yo, I'm going to be in quarantine for 5 days. So you got to take me to a dispensary because I need a bunch of joints before I get locked in a hotel. And he took me to Be Real's place out in Pasadena called Dr. Green Thumbs. Dude, it was like a big warehouse.
Cypress Hill was life for me, man. I'm
incredible.
Incredible.
It's pretty wild.
I've got to get on America's Got Talent just so I can go and visit.
Yeah, dude, I bought a bunch of joints from him, man. Edibles and stuff. I slept for 15 hours. It was great.
so jealous right now. What I love about it is the positivity. Now, you talked about the haters, dealing with haters with that promo style and that big energy, and not using like your own kind of emotions, more so taking the character, taking the persona, and using that almost like a defensive mechanism to try and
it's not real.
kind of, yeah, it's like, so, you know, in some ways, would you say that's a really unique idea and a really interesting take on how to deal with online abuse, trolls, bullying of that nature?
With this character, yes. Probably personally, I don't know if I would have that same separation if these people were in my personal DMs. I feel like it would be a little different. But when it's the character, I have to remember that it's just, he's the character. He's not me. Delicious Duane Douglas isn't the real Dwayne. Delicious Duane Douglas is this character that's evolved over, you know, the last year and a half. He's a guy that, you know, he's weird and he's flamboyant, and he'll sleep with a door, a lamp, a man, a woman, an elephant. You know, he's that kind of spectrumed out character. He's strange and odd. He's sleazy and gross. We could play him for scary. We could play him for jokes. It's however you want to do it. I think there's all kinds of opportunities that'll arise, you know what I mean, going forward with it all. You know,
have you had much interaction? I know you said, like, you know, you've met a lot of wrestlers and you've had celebrities coming in. How many actual wrestlers have kind of thought, do you know what, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to build my platform as well? This seems like something that a lot of wrestlers like myself really shouldn't turn their nose up at. I know there's going to be guys out there who are going to say, oh, fuck that, that's not real shit. What you do is real. You take real bumps. But you know, what's real, define real. That's ultimately in the eye of the beholder. It's very subjective as to what we believe is real now.
Right.
In a world like this, how much of it has kind of, do you find that the real wrestling world, so to say, has kind of collided with your wrestling world and created just another facet for people to enjoy?
Well, I think like we've had like, for instance, we've had deathmatch wrestler Casanova Valentine as part of the Isolation Wrestling Federation since the very beginning. So Cass was always around making content and everything like that. And I think like and I've gotten to hang out with him since. So that's kind of like the really fun thing, was that I'd seen him as a wrestler. Watched him wrestle Masada right before COVID at the last CZW show. And then COVID had happened. Cass was part of the Isolation Wrestling Federation. I joined the Isolation Wrestling Federation. Inevitably, we became opponents. And then I ran into him at like the Nick Gage Invitational. Then I ran into him in Brooklyn because I had gone up to Brooklyn to meet some Isolation Wrestling Federation people. And we all got to hang out. And I got to meet some of the guys from Boulevard Bullies, which are some content makers out of Brooklyn and New York and stuff like that. And everybody's kind of like in the people in the wrestling world that I've met have been positive. You know, they get it. You know, they understand that we're carving out our own place in this thing that we all love. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm not going to lie, it's kind of dying. You know what I mean? So do we even have room for that kind of like, you know, haterade at this point when we're kind of in love with something that's kind of dying? Yeah. You know, like, let's face it, man, viewers aren't going up because the WWE has a glass ceiling, because the WWE won't allow anybody to get bigger than the WWE anymore. And that's kind of the problem. And AEW has the same problem. They're never going to get somebody bigger than the show. The show's the most important thing, not an individual wrestler. And I think that's where we're never going to get a Stone Cold. We're never going to get a Rock. We're never going to get a Hulk Hogan ever again. Even like to lesser extent, Stings, Ric Flairs. We're never going to get those kind of guys again. Bigger than life personalities, because they're not allowed. That's why we get weak sauce head of the table. You know what I mean? Like, head of,
oh man,
I mean, listen,
my boy Roman like that.
I love the gimmick now. I love the gimmick.
He's so
but
good.
Like, he's so good. But you know what? We never would have got it had COVID not happened.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. The lack of crowds is what got Roman Reigns finally over, because we never would have bought it. You know what I mean? Like, and to a lesser extent, Paul Heyman. You know, Paul Heyman's got a lot of, you know, big influence there. So it's kind of like, finally Roman Reigns is over as a bad guy, but man, it took a long time. It took a really long time of him being ran down our throats. And then it took a national pandemic for it to happen, a worldwide pandemic for it to happen.
Let's talk about the current product, because what I love is, I could ask you all these questions, but you've covered, what you're doing and what's going on out there with content and stuff. But I'm really sensing a passionate, hardcore wrestling fan. I don't just mean hardcore itself. Obviously, that's had a big identity on your life, but you've experienced so much. Take me back to the ECW Arena, man. You obviously spent a lot of time in there. For people over here, the idea of the ECW Arena, that's like a cherished platform. It's like a church. It's gospel.
It's a church, right?
It is. We will never get to feel that. I've got York Hall. I've got places like Albert Hall and stuff like that, but they don't have that same vibe. What's your like really big memories of the ECW Arena?
The Dudleys were for me, it's the Dudleys were the most heat I had ever seen. Like the Cardona thing over the weekend was the closest I'd seen since back in the day. And a lot of people compare it to the Hulk Hogan thing because of all the trash. But when it came to like sheer heat, was like the Dudleys, man. Like I saw Bubba Ray like smack people and stuff like that, like hit people. I saw people go bonkers over the Dudleys. I remember Jerry Lawler whacking Tommy Dreamer in the balls with the kendo stick. And then that was a whole storyline where like Jerry Lawler was in ECW and they were connected with WWF at that point, like right around like the Raw time period. And it was all hot. And I worked at, there's a Boston Market, like two or three blocks right near the ECW Arena. And I used to work in that Boston Market and the guys used to come in. So like there would be guys like Justin Credible and New Jack and Bill Alfonso, and I would give them free food. And they would give me these index cards with the ECW stamp on them. And they would be like, just hand it in at the door and they'll let you in for free. And it's like, this is amazing. You know what I mean? So like they would come in, on certain days, I'd feed them for free. At the ball, you can have whatever you want, you know what I mean? Like, you want chickens? I'll give you chickens, like you want meatloaf? I got meatloaf for you, like whatever you want, you can have. So those were those kind of experiences. I always remember it being hot, packed, full of dudes, and just wild times, man. Like guys like the Franchise, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho back in the day. I remember Rick Rude was there for a little while with the Triple Threat.
Did you get to see Brian Pillman, like his debut?
No, I did not see Brian Pillman there. No.
But my favorite moment is Brian Pillman, and that promo is like really unhinged. And that promo, when I go into, my character takes himself into a very unhinged kind of environment sometimes, depending on my opponent. And I really channel Brian Pillman and everything that he did. And that was what ECW was about for me. Like, I watched it back. Some of it was incredible. Like, I was a huge mark for RVD. I thought RVD was the sickest thing.
RVD.
Martial arts.
Oh, yeah. Sabu. Yeah.
23-month television title reign. And, he'd have matches with guys that you would not think of now, like Chris Chetty and Roadkill and Danny Doring. And they would all be such great matches. Some of it wasn't great looking back at it, but I imagine when you're in there living it in that moment, it's a different feeling. How much of that feeling do you think equates to doing no contact wrestling? Because there's going to be loads of people sitting there going, it's just a load of weird guys dressed up in front of a camera shouting and making all this noise and cutting these promos. And I'm like, mate, that's basically the bread and butter of what I do. So shut the fuck up. Like,
that's kind of what we do. Yeah. We just don't have matches. And hopefully like maybe one day we can do like a couple hybrid shows where we like add these kind of comedic elements, where here in Philadelphia, there's this thing called Awful Wrestling. Awful Wrestling seems to be this more comedy centric pro wrestling. So I've reached out to them. So I'm just hoping like maybe eventually I'll hear from them and we can all get together. My plan is to like have an Awful Wrestling invasion of the IWF and then bring everybody in, start cutting content, cutting promos. Because the way I look at the IWF is if you're an indie wrestler, you should join, because this is a place to hone your craft.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said about the promo game. And I think it shows on a lot of shows, man, that guys don't, like, yeah, they can flip and they know holds, but they can't talk. And you know, like this is what I say, the greatest wrestler in the world has an old man around with him doing the talking for him, because he can't talk him. He can't get his bad guy gimmick over himself. He needs a bald old carny, like both of them actually. In both of the top guys in both companies have bald old carnies doing the talking for them, because they can't do it
Kenny
themselves.
Omega, I don't think Kenny Omega can talk, and that upsets a lot of people. Yeah, I think that's what's missing. He's not a good character. He needs Don Callis in there, baby.
Right. None of those guys are over. The Elite, none of those dudes. Cody Rhodes isn't over. The Bullock, I'm sorry, the Young Bucks, they're not over, and neither is Kenny Omega. They think they're over in their heads because of their YouTube show. But when it comes to an actual wrestling show, like, these dudes don't connect with the crowd. Like, the Young Bucks don't connect. I watch wrestling with kids. And we watch AEW on Wednesday nights, and those characters don't connect with the kids. You know what I mean? Like, weirdly enough, Orange Cassidy is like, that connects with the kids. Tomorrow I'm going to the IWTV 100, which is the 100th title defense of the and it's over at the H2O Hardcore Heaven, or the H2O Center in Williamstown, New Jersey. So Orange Cassidy will be there, and I'm taking the kids so they can see Orange Cassidy, like, not in a big arena for an AEW show. How about a little warehouse like H2O? You know what I mean? Where you can see Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander right in front of your face. You know what I mean? You can see Wheeler Yuta and stuff like that. You know, Dave Richards and stuff, these young indie guys they're going to be top talent one day. And the kids get to see them, you know, now. It's the stars of the future today in independent wrestling.
Who's jumping out at you right now in wrestling? Who do you watch and you think, this guy's got it? This guy could really build our business back up to the state that we want it to be in.
I felt like Nick Gage was like that. You know what I mean? If they put Nick Gage, if Nick Gage was given the opportunity to not just carve up, you know, Chris Jericho, but like if Nick Gage was treated the way Nick Gage is treated on the indies.
Nick Gage can get like to a...
Not now. Nick Gage 5 years ago. Yeah. But not now. You know, like Nick Gage, as he was built up, I think like Nick Gage right now is a little different. There's wear and tear. I don't even know. I don't think he has much longer. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of wear and tear.
I've got to be honest, he looks knackered and he looks a little weathered. It's probably not.
I don't want to say stuff. You know what I mean? On a TV show.
I'll be down for. To be honest, I'll be down for fighting Nick Gage. I'm not really scared of anybody. I never have been, and I'd be more than happy to throw hands with someone like that. But at the same time,
I'm a little scared. I'm a no contact wrestler, and I see Nick Gage all the time at wrestling shows. So I'm gonna watch.
Have you had a chance to speak to Nick Gage personally about what?
Absolutely. No, about no contact wrestling. No, I don't advertise it too much at wrestling shows. Like there's the people that know I do it. You know what I mean? When I go to wrestling shows.
Worry that people are going to judge, or is it just you don't want to step on people's toes because they do a different?
Well, wrestling's a recreational thing for me, so it's more of like not trying to bring that kind of attention, because it's my opportunity to let my inner 12-year-old come out. And that's not what I like. Wrestling is my happy place. Like pro wrestling and indie wrestling shows are my happy place. Yeah. So it's not like I've kind of definitely view like Triple D as more like a business thing at this point, where, you know, I take it seriously. I take the content seriously. So if people know about it, they want to talk about it, great. But I'm not kind of like, hey, I'm Triple D, the no contact wrestler. Look at me. You know, like, I think it's a little different at that point. Like, I don't seek out the attention, but in a way I do, because I put the stuff out there on the internet. But like at a wrestling show, I'm there to get attention in different ways.
We like to keep it nice and tight, but if you'd love to come back on, I'd love to have you back on. You're the kind of guy.
Absolutely. Love
to have you on as a guest.
If you want to talk about like what's going on, like wrestling stuff, you know what I mean? Like anytime. I'll be going to the Nick Gage Invitational probably in October for ECW. That'll be 2 days. GCW, that's 2 days.
Yeah, we've got a guy over here. Like, we were actually scheduled when COVID kicked in. I had tickets for it. We had a 3-day weekend. GCW were doing their first ever tour of the UK, and they were going to be.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends were going to have the opportunity to wrestle on those cards. I think
I hope you get that shot.
So maybe one day, man. Maybe I'll just keep your head down, working. Like, it's a weird business, because what you do is so cool and so much fun, and there's a lot of warmth there and excitement. But in the the kind of hard hitting sort of training schedule of it, and there is very much a mentality of you don't say anything and you take your whippings, and that can be a little demoralizing, which is why the podcast was an outlet for me to show people that wrestling still got an entertainment value. It's not all about just taking 100 flip bumps and then throwing up at the toilets around the back, which we've all been there and done.
Right. That's where no contact wrestling made me realize that if I had muscles and athleticism, I could have actually, and I was younger, I could have been a professional wrestler. But I'm 43. I'll turn 44 at the end of the year. I'm not doing any flips. I'm not taking any bumps of that kind of serious nature. I'm not learning how to moonsault now. This is my way of giving into the wrestling world that I've always kind of wanted to be a part of since I was a kid, but I didn't have muscles or athleticism. And in a weird way, how does anybody get in the wrestling industry? You know what I mean? Does everybody there's no set path into it. We all kind of carve our own way and figure out our own way into the wrestling industry. And I think I didn't mean to. I can't believe the character's gotten as far as it's gotten, but I never really meant to be part of the wrestling world. And now that I am, I want to carve this niche for the Isolation Wrestling Federation. So it has this little footnote in history of wrestling that these weirdos existed. They made this great wrestling content that, was so good. It was hard to be ignored because it was all the most fun things about wrestling, but it didn't have any wrestling to it, but it had the spirit of wrestling and professional wrestling. Actual real professional wrestling shows lack that spirit that we have in the Isolation Wrestling Federation. There's a clear lack of love that goes on in the WWE and AEW's product, is that there's just no love there. And I think in the 80s, you could see the love in it all, and there's just no love for it. It's been watered down and washed out. And again, the glass ceiling, man,
Yeah, it's I've been very blessed. I'm now afforded. I got into wrestling really late. I say I'm old at 36. That tells you everything you need to know about what the wrestling was. I started 3.5 years ago, and I'm lucky that I'm now being used because I'm a graphic designer, things of that nature. So I'm getting used on the videography side of things, the booking side of things, creative and stuff. And that's kind of where I'm starting to really carve out a niche, and where I'm really starting to get excited. And I see someone like you, and I see an opportunity to, I'd love to have you over here, come on our shows. I think you've got the potential to be legitimately one of the better managers. You've already got such a cadence and a passion for the entertainment aspect of it. And I think that more and more people should be encouraged to bring their characters to wrestling, and it shouldn't just all be about, I want to see a 6'4", jacked up to the gills man taking bumps and doing technical hammerlocks. That stuff's great, and we've got loads of guys who can do that. But the art of the manager, for instance, is such a dead art, and that's why people lose their minds for Paul Heyman, because there just isn't anyone left who can do what he can do.
Yeah, there's Don Callis. Nobody's doing it, you know what I mean? And it's that kind of thing where how many tag teams and how many factions do we need on AEW and WWE? But we don't. The only managers we get are divas, you know what I mean? Females that they don't have any roles for. But when I was a kid, there was Jimmy Hart, there was Freddie Blassie, there was a Grand Wizard, there was all these guys that Paul Ellering, Paul Heyman, Engelbert Humperdinck. There's Gary Hart, Gary freaking Hart, dude. What a badass, you know what I mean? And there's none of those guys.
Ivy, crazy names.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm very blessed that I'm so passionate about it. I just consume all of it as much as I can, and it has kind of become all consuming in a way. And I'm blessed because I spent 17 years of my life doing the 9 to 5 thing, doing the 50 hours a week, being a postman, doing the miserable shit that we don't want to do, but we have to do to make ends meet. And now I'm blessed that I can flex myself and be an independent artist, and that's what wrestling gave me. I always like to end with word association. A little bit of fun. We obviously give you a name and then you tell us a word to describe that individual. Right before we do, however, obviously No Contact Wrestling. You mentioned there's shows and presentations and things of that nature coming up. What's in the near future? What have you got to plug?
Over at Isolation Wrestling Federation on Instagram, tomorrow starts our King of the Screen 2. King of the Screen is a 16-man and woman no contact wrestling tournament for supremacy and a chance at the title of No Contact Wrestling Isolation World Federation champion. So go over to Isolation Wrestling Federation on Instagram tomorrow. The festivities will begin.
It'll likely be dropping either tomorrow or Monday. So how long is it going for?
Yes, it should be going on for about a week and a half. The first round should take, and then the second round, and then the third round, and then we'll find out who the greatest no contact wrestler of the world in 2021 is, and who our possibly new no contact wrestling champion will be. So that starts tomorrow over at Isolation Wrestling Federation on Instagram. I recorded a heater today. It's really funny. I feel like it's one of Triple D's best videos. He comes in real hot on this one. My opponent is Big Dick Richard. And I'm going to take Big Dick Richard to places he's never been before in the squared screen.
It's kind of a double hitter for Big Dick, isn't it? Because
it's quite sure Triple D loves Big Dick, so that everybody knows.
That's a double dick you've got going on.
That's Big Dick.
Yeah, I don't think I haven't spotted the joke there, Richard. I don't think I haven't spotted that stuff. I'll endeavor to get this podcast out then. I mean rapid. So it might be 2:30 in the morning, but we're going to get to work.
Awesome.
So guys, check that out. Check out Instagram. Any social media you'd like to plug? Merchandise?
You can follow me over at Delicious Duane Douglas on Instagram. That's Triple D IWF on Twitter, and Delicious Duane Douglas on TikTok. And that's where you could just search Delicious Duane Douglas on any Google search engine, and plenty of my content comes right on up. You can see the America's Got Talent performance. I have a music video that I just released called The Tasty Daddy. So you can see me sing a rock and roll song as well, kind of like Jesse Ventura's The Body Rules, or Land of 1,000 Dances that the old wrestlers did, or Stand Back by Vince McMahon. Stand back.
That's incredible.
You ain't shit in wrestling unless you have a song. So Kenny Omega, you listen. Triple D's got a song. What do you got? You fucking bum.
You fucking jabroni, mate.
Yeah,
it's just, that's Kenny Omega in a nutshell. I'm just saying. Man, I like the opportunity to just riff on Kenny Omega quickly. I've got a few names, which I'm kind of going out on a limb and assuming that you'll know these names, obviously, and hopefully you'll be able to put. Now, obviously, it's word association, but if you feel like you want to throw out more than one word, of course, we're not going to shackle someone of Triple D's knowledge and Triple D's charisma. So feel free to hit us up. We're going to start with a good one and a simple one. Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh yeah.
That's perfect. It's so easy, isn't it? Really is.
Yeah.
How about the genius, Lanny Poffo?
Great heat.
Yeah. Do you know what? Wildly underrated.
I was a child that was so mad at that man.
The campness added to it at that time.
When they added him with Kurt Hennig was right there.
It's like when Goldust first broke in and you didn't know what this sexuality was about, and I like that because that was edgy. But obviously,
that's Triple D, right? Triple D has that. Yeah,
exactly. I love that. That's seriously all equal opportunists. That is good stuff. Rowdy Roddy Piper.
They live.
Oh, that's on Netflix right now. And if you haven't seen it,
Oh yeah,
it's so
he's here to kick ass and chew bubble gum.
Oh yes. Let's mix it up a little bit. Alex Zane.
I seen him do amazing things live.
Do you think there's more in the tank for Alex Zane? You think he?
Oh, I think there's a lot in the tank for Alex Zane. I don't know what they're doing.
Might benefit from being removed. It might free him up more.
Alex Zane was always
More
better than Ari Sterling. And that's the tweet he put out earlier, that Alex Zane's greater than Ari Sterling, and he always was.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair, man. Nick Gage.
Ah, man, it's the king. It's the god of this shit. It's probably my favorite wrestler currently right now. There's a bloodlust that comes with the Nick Gage walkout, the mosh pit and being in that and everything is kind of, Nick Gage is probably my favorite wrestler currently. So yeah, the man, the king, the god of this shit, Nick fucking Gage.
There you go. And I won't be talking shit about Nick Gage anytime soon. I'm more scared about you coming for me than Nick Gage, to be honest. Let's be real, man. Now then, Jerry the King Lawler.
Oh man, that stuff in Memphis is just Andy Kaufman.
Yeah,
like when I think Jerry Lawler, I think Andy Kaufman right there.
Lights out.
You know
Absolute. Lights out. Here's a good one for you. I'm sure he's somebody who would probably have many an opinion on you. Jim Cornette.
You know what? I disagree with a lot of things he says, but I'm a Jim Cornette guy.
I am.
I listen to the podcast. I'm on the Call to Cornette on like Facebook and stuff like that. Like I like his insights, and I think he's a wonderful, wonderful pro wrestling mind. I don't think he understands a lot of modern stuff. Like I think he's just a little too old. And he does want the presentation to be 1970s style pro wrestling, and I like that, but there has to be room for your Danhausens and your Orange Cassidys and stuff like that.
Yeah, he do you know what? I love that. I could just splice that audio because I have arguments, pitch battles with people online all the time because, like, I get called British Cornette a little bit, and I'm like, yeah, but like for me, I love what Cornette has to say, but there are times when I think, please shut up. Like, he's so wrong about. So like, he doesn't like Ortiz and Santana and Ortiz, and I think they're sick. They're like my favorite tag team. They're so inspirational.
Intergender wrestling. He doesn't like intergender
I think it's
wrestling.
important that even if someone says something inflammatory, that you're able to understand that person can still provide knowledge, particularly when they've been in our business for so long.
Correct.
And I think that's so important. I think
it's dumb to turn off that voice.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think it's very ignorant, and I think that's kind of indicative of a lot of people in wrestling. And I think that's why wrestling is struggling, because just because he says some nasty shit about AEW and stuff doesn't mean he doesn't still have good points to make. So
correct. Yeah. That's kind of my thing. Like I've watched AEW and really enjoyed the show, and then listened to Cornette, and he just trashes it, and it's like, bud, yeah, this is where I know that you're just not. I don't know if he'll ever be able to look at it in a positive mindset unless he was actually writing the stories and running it. Because it's very much if I was running things type of attitude.
Yeah, that's unfortunately the problem is, he's got an idea or a vision of what it's going to be. Right. So that's fair enough. But it's nice to see that even people like yourself understand the value that someone like Jim Cornette does have. He just passed actually very recently. Beautiful Bobby Eaton.
Oh, one of the best of all time. Tremendous worker.
And one of the
sweet ass mullet.
Yeah.
One of the best mullets in the game.
Oh man, the idea that he would carry a separate briefcase with toiletries for guys who couldn't afford to wipe their own ass and stuff is so wicked. And that shows that old era isn't necessarily all as bad as we think it is. It isn't all shitting people's kit bags and hanging them up by the coat hangers and stuff.
Right.
He really,
it's guys like Bobby out there.
Yeah, Bobby was truly beautiful in every sense, and that's where he earned that name. And man, he was so special. Ric Flair,
the Nature Boy, greatest of all time.
Think so.
Greatest to ever do it. Greatest to ever lace up the boots. Greatest to ever pick up the microphone. There's so much Triple D. There's so much Ric Flair and Triple D that it's the core influence is Ric Flair with Triple D. Like if there was a core skeleton, that skeleton's Ric Flair.
Is there any dreams to get Ric Flair on side for this kind of thing? I feel like as he's having a bit more fun.
It would be amazing if it did. I mean, Mick Foley tagged along. We've had, Cornette do some stuff with us as well. So sky's the limit. You never know. You know what I mean?
Oh,
If the right opportunity came along.
Out of Ric Flair now.
If he saw this, it would just be amazing. Or if he saw the Isolation Wrestling Federation, I think he would get it. I think all those old time wrestlers would get what we do. Mick Foley loved it. Mick Foley was like, "You guys are geniuses. You're more fun than the actual wrestling shows."
Mick Foley is the nicest guy in wrestling, and he just wants everyone to thrive. Mick Foley is a really fine example to me, especially. You don't have to be a body guy as long as you're passionate enough and you want it enough. You can make.
You love wrestling
for yourself. Yeah. We all love wrestling, and do you know what? I've been guilty of going down the Cornette route sometimes and shitting on things just for the sake of shitting on things. But having a chance to talk to someone like yourself, especially, has really reminded me that we all love wrestling, and we can all have our own little sections of wrestling and still have fun. So maybe a little bit less division.
It's a dying thing, man. We shouldn't have haters in it. We should all kind of have that self-awareness to realize that this platform that we love, this thing that we love of pro wrestling, isn't growing audiences. Like the houses aren't getting packed anymore. It's not Stone Cold Steve Austin days. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And wrestling needs as much help and as much positivity as it can get. You know what I mean? And I kind of wish that guys like Jim Cornette would realize that, is that, the art form's dying and we're all caretakers of it. All of us that love pro wrestling, if we love pro wrestling that much, then we need to be caretakers of pro wrestling. We need to carry that torch. Beautifully
said. It's a shame, actually, because I'm sitting here thinking, man, think how much if Jim Cornette could just calm himself, how important he would be to the growth and creativity on an AEW or even an NXT right now.
If he had a good therapist, whoo.
Yeah. I mean, Jim Cornette, I could spend hours talking to Jim Cornette and picking his mind, but at the same time, I always feel like I come away knowing that he kind of didn't want me to succeed as much as I would like.
Sure. He's forgotten more than we remember. You know what I mean?
That's exactly it. Yeah. He'll take a piss and there'll be more knowledge in that piss of wrestling.
And in that piss than our whole bodies. Right.
Here's an interesting one. Casey Hopkins.
Mad genius.
Yeah, I love
him.
Yeah.
Like,
let's see. I like this one. Ultimate Warrior.
Richie is awesome. Met her in Brooklyn a few months back, and she is awesome. She is fantastic in real life.
That's like the dream wife, if I'm being real.
Nice. She is great. She's a babe. Yeah.
They're absolutely amazing. I love that spirit, and it also shows, hey, it's all about the women here as well. Women's wrestling, by the way, just stops.
Right. Our champion is Busty Biceps, and she is a woman. So.
Giovanni Lasagna.
The sauce, my arch rival. He's a scumbag. I wish nothing but terrible things for that scumbag, that paisan.
How good is he at making a lasagna?
He's not good at all. It's trash.
That's some fake shit.
It's terrible. It sent me to the toilet. You see that video I made? God, I was sitting on a toilet for hours.
You have to splice that shit in now. Quite literally.
Terrible.
As we move
scumbag.
As we move towards the finish, Busty Biceps.
Wonderful champion, but nobody knows where she is. She's been sitting on the shelf for too long, holding on to my belt, my title.
Taking
it. Hiding from Triple D. She doesn't want any of this. I heard she's doing some Mother Teresa shit, but nobody cares because no contact wrestling business is happening over here.
Somebody I'm personally a big fan of, Double H, Harold Hopkins.
Double H, Harold Hopkins. He's the champion of women, the former women's champion. I'll have you know that he is one of the biggest feminists I know. Biggest. He loves women.
I got two more here. I had to bring this one in. Daddy Deltoids.
Daddy Deltoids. Oh, she's tough. I lost to Daddy Deltoids, and I don't think I should have. But we are both daddies, and she was wonderful to work with on my music video. So I tried to propose a tag team with her, the Zaddies. And we would take the no contact wrestling world by storm. as the top tag team in the IWF.
Yeah, crazy mark for Daddy Deltoid. Send them my love.
She's a babe.
She'll rip my head off, but it'll be worth the
Funny.
experience.
She doesn't take shit.
No,
she didn't take Triple D. She put me on a leash. It was like I was. That's it.
Who's your daddy? Daddy Deltoid. Simple as, really.
That's right.
And finally, probably the cream of the crop here. Word association, as many words as you'd like to cover. Delicious Duane Douglas,
the greatest no contact wrestler of all time, Triple D. A character that I created, and I cannot believe that it's gotten this far. I cannot believe that I'm on a podcast. This is like I've done a bunch of podcasts since America's Got Talent, and I can't believe it. If there's anything to show with Triple D, make content. Be consistent, follow through. Don't just make content, keep making content. There's days where I don't want to make content and I put on the Speedo and I put on the jacket and I yell whether I want to make it or not, because it's about keeping the content out there, putting it out there, making it, getting seen, honing the craft of cutting a good promo. Is all because of this wacky character that like Triple D. I'm going to do Triple D until I can't do Triple D anymore. I was like, even if I'm the only person in the IWF and I got to wear lucha masks as my opponent, I'll keep doing Triple D stuff. You know, I'll always cut those promos because it's at this point, it's a craft that I like to hone.
Yeah, the last thing I really want to throw in there before we say goodbye is I'm a content creator and I work so hard. And like you, there are days when I just think, it's like today I've been, I've been up better part of 18 hours now, and I went to see my soccer team, as you guys would call it. And, I'm exhausted, but then I get a chance to talk to someone like you, and it reminds me why I love doing this. And it's not because I want a massive amount of subscribers, because I don't have that, but what I do have is a passion.
See, I didn't get some huge bump from AGT. I still have like 400 followers on my Instagram page. That's never something I worry about. I make Triple D content because I like making my friends laugh. Yeah. I like making myself laugh because I feel like a mad genius when I do the videos, and I come up with some weirdo idea and I'm like, oh my God, this is so funny. I can't believe I'm this funny. And I do it because of that. And I do it because when I'm done my videos, I get to send it to all my friends and they tell me how crazy I am. If other people watch it, awesome. You know what I mean? But I don't worry about that. I just worry about my next opponent and whatever crazy idea that I have to make a video. You know what I mean? Whether it's throwing Triple D in a scene from Twin Peaks, or throw in Triple D in House of a Thousand Corpses, or my next opponent, or making an IWF toy commercial, or a 1-900 number commercial, like a sex line I did with Triple D, like call me now. And I did all that stuff. It's whatever the idea strikes, you know what I mean? Of how can we make a vignette, or what's a great idea? What's funny? What's a good promo? I just keep doing it because I know other people want to see the content in a weird way, and I have friends that like love it, and I just want to make my friends laugh.
A beautiful message for people to pick up on.
Just do the stuff. Just do it as much as you can. Do it.
Thing. At WrestleMania 9, that's what Randy Savage said right at the beginning of WrestleMania 9. Go back and watch it. He goes, lock and load and do the thing, and
do it.
Yeah, spot on. Thank you so much for giving me so much of your time. Please come back on the podcast.
I would love to.
You have reinvigorated my passion for being a little bit more positive about wrestling as well. So
awesome. I hope you watch wrestling after this. Like you go to bed.
Yeah.
Watching
well,
wrestling.
I mean, I'm going to be watching a lot of your stuff because there's a lot of editing that needs to be done now. And it's worth it. It's worth every moment.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, man. Anything else you want to say to people before we wrap it up?
Just follow Isolation Wrestling Federation on Instagram. Follow Delicious Duane Douglas on Instagram, especially this week. There is a new Delicious Duane Douglas heater coming out against my opponent, Big Dick Richard. So follow Isolation Wrestling Federation on Instagram. Submit your own content. Make a 60-second video of your no contact wrestler. Submit your content because we want it. We want new no contact wrestlers. Triple D needs new people to battle.
Is there an email they can send those videos to?
They can send those videos directly to the Isolation Wrestling Fed. Just post it on Instagram and tag us. over at Isolation Wrestling Fed,
There
or
you
use
go.
the hashtag IWF Pros. IWF Pros, that's the hashtag. And just, use that hashtag, submit your video, and you'll hear from somebody really, really fast.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you get on that. This could be an opportunity for you there to grapple with Triple D. And let's be honest, it's the pinnacle. It's the pinnacle of this business. But yeah, like I say, man, nothing else left to say. But thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. I had a great time. This is a blast.
Thank you very much, brother. I look forward to having you back on very soon.
Absolutely.